Imagine living in a country that has been designated as a target by terrorists for annihilation for the past 90 years. That's how Israel has existed. It only follows to reason that the flight deck crew members on board LL would be armed in an effort to thwart off terrorist attacks. However, that is not the case. With this in mind, we need to re-examine the current U.S. policy of arming our pilots on board our aircraft. Although the Federal Flight Deck Officers Program was started in 2003, there has been a number of issues that should be addressed. The 9/11 attacks of the United States was in a reactionary frame of mind, and I believe we should reassess the policy. Now, I know most of you would oppose my stand, but I want to share with you some of the facts. So please bear with me and listen to with an open mind and consider the merits of my argument. I would like to explore 4 issues. First, the job description of the pilot in command and the Air Marshal Program. Second, the conflict of supporting agencies. Third, the degree of training required. And fourth, the cost of the Federal Flight Deck Officers Training. Let's revisit the Federal Aviation Regulation that we live by since day one of our careers. USA FAR 91-3 states the responsibility and authority of the pilot in command. The FAA declares that the pilot in command of an aircraft is directly responsible for and is the final authority as to the operation of that aircraft. We must never forget that the primary responsibility of a pilot in command is to fly the airplane. As a professional pilot for 40 years, 30 of those years were with the airline, this fact has never changed. It is our primary job. Now, the Federal Air Marshal Service is a United States federal law enforcement agency run by the TSA. Their job is to promote confidence in civil aviation. They're there to detect, deter, and defeat any possible hostile activity targeting the United States. They rank among the federal law enforcement officers that hold the highest standard for handgun accuracy. Now, the conflicting agencies. The Federal Air Marshal Agency was started back in 1968 under the Kennedy administration. Back then, they were known as Sky Marshals. The conflict arises is that the Sky Marshals back then were run under the Federal Aviation Administrations, the way we pilots operate under, their rules and regulation. Now, the Sky Marshals, or I should say Air Marshals, are under the Transportation Security Administration, the TSA. And with this change in agency, pilots may feel uncertain as to the appropriate reporting agency. We both have the same goals: to prevent another terrorist attack. Now is training. The Federal Air Marshals, while many of the details of the Federal Air Marshals program are classified, it has been reported that the program consists of 10.5 weeks of intensified progressive training, advanced marksmanship. They work under a proactive firearms training program. Their scenario-based exercises. Their qualifications: most of the Air Marshals are ex-military, and a large percent of them are law enforcement agents with thorough background checks. the Federal Air Marshal's job is to blend in with the passengers on board the aircraft, rely heavily on their training, including investigative techniques, crime terrorist behavior recognition, firearms proficiency, and aircraft-specific tactics in close quarters, self-defense training to protect the flying public. Now, the Federal Flight Deck Officers Training consists of only 45 hours of training, with one recurrent during the year. Their training consists of firearms handling, legal aspects, tort law, policy regarding use of lethal force, and they work under a reactive firearms training syllabus. So the key difference is the federal the federal marshals work under a proactive system, whereas the flight officers work under a reactive program. And the last issue I have is the cost. The direct training costs of the Federal Flight Deck Officer System comes to $10,400 per pilot. These figures came from 2004 chapter. In today's economy, do we really need this cost to add to our deficit? These highly trained federal air marshals is part of the captain's team, and having two armed people on board an aircraft could have some serious conflicts. So let's take a page from the book of LL and let the professionals do their job.